do the back part of this. Oh, here
There
we
you
are.
go.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Time to Shine Happiness Show. I'm your host, Barbara Ellison, and I am your personality pro because personality drives reality. And you know what? I'm on a mission to make happiness the norm. And part of happiness is having influence and impact, but also earning income because we all have bills to pay. And that's what this show is all about, of just teaching you tips and strategies and bringing on experts in their fields who can help you do with all of those things. My co-host, the other BB, Barbara Beckley, she is caught up in another situation, and so she is not going to be able to be with us. She might pop in later. I'm hoping she will, but she's running the back of the house, of course, as always. So I am just so excited to have our guest today, Rebecca. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the show. How are you doing today? So we're going to find out all about you and what you do. So good
Awesome.
morning.
Good morning. It's a beautiful day here in Michigan. Good ocean. It's shining today. It's a nice about 50, 60. It's pretty good. Good day.
So so tell us a little bit about you. How did you get to be the transformer that you are? I would think that would be the way to, because I know you're a Primerica leader, and so tell us all about that and how you got to be that.
Which one do we want? So I am Rebecca D. Haight. I've been calling myself recently. I've been kind of revamping who I am, what
Okay.
I do. The best way is to kind of say master channeler, and I'm with Radiant Possibilities. And in Radiant Possibilities, in channeling basically just means I bring in spirit, I answer questions for people, and I just channel information. So, and then the other end of it is Primerica, where I also help people with their financial wellness. So,
Exactly.
yeah, so
We have to do both.
yes, yes,
It's the two sides of the coin. We have
yeah,
to do both.
it does. It's a nice, sometimes people kind of, um, question, right? How am I doing both? Well, I think, like you said, it's a very good combination of everything. When
Yeah.
my goal is to help people find inner peace in all areas of their life, mind, body, spiritually, and financially. And I had
Right.
found through the years, including myself, that the financial piece, not everybody's like this, but I was. The financial piece was something I'll do later. I'll get to it. I'll pay
Mhm.
attention to it later. A single mom, I was raising kids. I was just kind of getting by, and I'll just get to it. I'll save later. I'll save later. Well, all of a sudden, I'm 50, in my 50s.
Yes.
I'm like, it's later. It's later, and I'm a little bit nervous now. And so, actually, about 10 years ago, I was introduced to Primerica, heard their concepts, believed in it, loved it, but didn't pursue it. And then up a couple years ago, ran into somebody again. I was right at the right space and time in my life, and it was ready to really start paying attention. And I just became even more in love with it because I love that we help educate. We don't just
Right.
tell you do. We're educating you. You're giving you foundations. Where do we start? We always think of it as a house. We start at that foundational level. Many times people, when we get out of school and get that good job, right? And they start us
Mhm.
with like a 401k or a retirement, which is great. But a lot of times people just kind of put that on the back burner, trust it for a long time that that's building and they're going to be fine. Yet there's so much more to it than just that. And also the fact is that we're not always going to be at the same position, right? We're going to maybe
Right.
change jobs. We're maybe going to retire, sometimes earlier than not, sometimes because of health wise. So one of the things we always make sure is we start you at that foundational level, which is, the base level of what's holding up your house, and that's usually your life insurance. And a lot of people just kind of like look past that one because, well, I got it through work. And again, are we
Right.
always going to that workplace? Do they always keep that in place? Is it enough for your family?
Right.
Right? These are the things we just sit with you and see where you're at, what it is you have, what do you need to move forward, right? What do you need at this foundational level? Because when we're talking to couples, and that's usually the ideal people we're talking to is young couples,
Right.
middle couples that have family, have kids, they have a mortgage.
Right.
If one of you aren't there, it's an income replacement, and that's what remember. A lot of times we think life insurance, well, I don't plan on dying soon. Well, of course you don't, right?
Right.
Nobody does. Nobody wants to, but things do happen. And you just have to, it makes you feel more prepared. Like I realize even as a single mom, knowing that something happened to me, my kids are going to have some push. They don't have to all worried about how am I going to bury mom? How am I going to come up with the money for this? And
Right.
so these are the things that we're educating people on.
Right. And that for me is what you in that just little bit right there. I mean, that you said a mouthful.
Yes.
Number one, you had to be ready. So often opportunities are put in our space that we're just not ready for, and so consequently we don't see them. But then they do have a way, the right thing for you. Don't you find that it does come around again? It's like,
For
oh,
sure.
and then it comes around again. And that's where I think when we are in tune with the spiritual part of us,
Yes.
getting in tune with what we want, how we want to do it, what impact we want to have.
Yeah.
And that's where it all ties in, because you have to be in tune. In fact, I was just reading a thing on LinkedIn uh, about that money, like people pursue money to the exclusion of everything else. Well,
Mhm.
that's not good either, because
Correct.
that that doesn't bring you true happiness. It doesn't bring you true wealth. So I'm
Mhm.
so glad to hear that, because that's why I like to surround myself with people who think the way I do, that it's a
Yeah.
combination. We have
Yeah.
to be in touch with our higher self, with the person that we want to be and the impact that we want to have around with the people around us. So that is
Absolutely.
amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. So always good to hear. So tell us what would be some tips for somebody that, like I love that you said you'll start when you're young, which is always amazing. The thing is though, like a lot of us have started when we're not quite so young. So
Correct.
what what tips would you have for somebody that has done what you've said, that they have kind of relied on their 401 or the company, and then all of a sudden now they're either being downsized, the company itself is being out the door of all the stuff that's going on in the past year. What can you do?
Correct.
What tips can you give us to kind of transition out of that and into a more stable?
Beautiful. Yes, that's perfect. And then that's basically what it is. You transition all of your things, your savings, your 401k, whatever it's you've got going, get it into a private company such as
Okay.
Primerica. Get it there so you have 100% of the control.
Right.
100%.
Is
Because
that where
even when you
self-directed comes in? Becomes a self-directed?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, you have when you in for a company like Primerica, you're getting the whole gamut. We're gonna help you with everything, every step of the way. I have a little story to tell you. It was interesting. I had gotten a referral, and I called them, and my friend had accidentally given me her instead of her son's number, she had given me her brother's number. Now, her brother and wife, we got talking, and I said, "Well, this is why I was calling them." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, I really could use your help because I'm retired and I just got all this information on what to do with my 401k stuff, and I have no idea what all this is talking about. I have no idea." Right? So I came to her and I said, "I've got somebody I can bring with me. We'll help you figure it out." And so we broke it down to her what she can do, how she can do it. And it takes steps. We don't do it instantly all at once.
No,
But the
exactly.
fun the thing is, she was still not she was in her 60s, right? I think 60. So still her and her husband still working. She's retired, but he was still working. We also found out that he had worked a couple different He was a paramedic, so he's worked at a couple different places through the years.
Oh,
He
right.
had one sit he had one sitting there, a couple of them sitting there, thinking they were making money. And actually, when we looked at one of the 401ks, he lost like $10,000 because it was just sitting there, and
Oh,
nobody was paying
wow.
attention. So you didn't have your work people paying attention to it anymore. You didn't, when you're in a company, usually about once a year, every 6 months, the people that have a hold of those 401ks come and sit down with you briefly, explain what's going on. Do you need to do anything, etc. Well, he no longer had that. So again, we
Right.
had to take those two that he had sitting out there and put them somewhere so he could have control over them. And
Right.
then to find out, oh, since she's retired, she also is still young enough. They have two incomes. They still count on her money coming in. And so she still needed life insurance. The nice
Right.
thing is that actually she's one person with a good news is that her health had gotten better because she had once been diabetic, had been a little
Uh,
heavier. She had, and she's lost that weight. She had got off all her prescriptions, and we were able to still give her life insurance enough to at least them feel comfortable if something happens, she was covered.
wow.
So it was beautiful. And then on top of that, we turned around and now, well, what else would we need to do is one of the things is we're connected with Legal Shield, so we can help you get a will or trust in place. So we also
Okay.
help you with that. So those are the kind of things that we do, when that kind of transition's happening. We can sit with you, help you figure it out because they will send you paperwork. You can stay with that company that you've had through work for your 401k, and they'll attach you to somebody. But why don't you look and see? A lot of times, have that second opinion.
Right.
That one might be working perfectly for you, and we will tell you. Now, I had a friend and that's one instance happened too. I had a friend who already had something going on through, I don't know if it was a prior work or work, but it was a 401k that he had started. And my friend, the securities license in our office looked at it and she said, I can't beat this. Keep it where it's at. So he was
Right.
sold on Primerica because we didn't try to pull him over and put it in ours.
Right.
She honestly said, leave it there. So we're not just coming in to try
Right.
to get your business. Of course we want your business, but only and only if it's the right thing to do. If
Right.
it's truly going to save you money and put you in control of your
Right.
thing. I totally believe in having private life insurance. Yes, have some and your own 401k, or it's not 401k for your private, it's usually a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA or things of this nature. So we can sit with you and figure out what you're wanting to do with your money, how you want it to build, and we can help you figure out what exactly is the right fit for you. A
Cool.
lot of times, yeah. So when they're transitioning from their work or have gotten let go, a lot of times on the side with the life insurance part, you can sometimes keep that. It usually don't come with you. It usually stops when your work stops.
Right.
And so,
Right.
and if they do let you have it, it's usually like triple what you've been paying. I mean, and a lot of
Oh,
times you're not
right.
paying it. So if you're used to zero because your company's been carrying the life insurance for you, then all of a sudden you're having to pay triple or 10 times more, then it's crazy. So you're better. And so it's better to get, you're going to have to transition it either way. And if you're still got two incomes coming in, you definitely need to make sure that you've got how much you need and how much you can afford. And we look at
Right.
both of those scenarios
Right.
for you, what you need
Right.
and what you can afford. So
Yeah. Cool.
did that answer? I think that
That
answered the question.
you know exactly. And the thing that I'm interested in hearing right now is like you're talking about transitioning,
Yep.
and so often that starts up here.
Oh yeah.
It starts with our mindset. So
Mhm.
I really want to transition into the other part of what you do, because
Yes.
I can remember when I was, like, I'm a happiness girl, and yet I work with business owners to transform their messaging, to do marketing and things, and I absolutely struggled with how to put those two things together, how to talk about, being being happy and being fulfilled in your life, but also how to earn income.
Correct.
And I
Correct.
really struggled with that. So, but now I have finally realized that it's all part of the same pie. It's called life. we, we
Yeah.
want to have impact, we want to have influence, but we need to have income. And so I
Yeah.
want to share your journey of how you did that, transitioning from the spiritual mindset, things that we absolutely need in our lives, because that's our being, our inside us. But also we have
Mhm.
to have the outside things, which is our insurance and income and those kinds of things. So I'd love to hear how you worked that part.
Well, I feel, in all honestly, I'm still working it, right? It's still a
Well, never
process.
ending. It's never ending.
So
Never ending.
I always want to that. But the spiritual part is a part that just, like you said, feeds the soul.
Jesus.
I notice when I step away, or, you know, become unbalanced, or whatever you want to call it, things become more of a struggle in other areas, right?
Right.
So something to say about combining your mind, spirit, and everything, because where you're missing something, where you're not standing in your full worth, tends to spread it out in other areas of your life.
Right.
So when I become too unbalanced, when I'm not exercising, when I'm not doing my mindfulness, when I'm not journaling, or at least sitting in something, I become really you talk about money, right? The money flow sometimes will almost completely stop when I'm in resistance to everything.
Right.
And it's a state of being, right? So when you're being um, upset, and allowing that to control you, then you it just affects everything. You go in a bad mood. You when you try
Right.
to talk to people, they're gonna pick that up, so they're not really attracted to you. But when I work on my mindfulness, when I
Right.
become more clear and quiet and listen, things just begin to flow. Connections
Mhm.
happen, show up in your life amazingly as you need them, right?
Right.
So
Right.
it's
The law of
fun. I mean,
attraction.
yeah, so it's fun when you really begin to play with the magic of who you are and being in that. Oh my gosh, things come so much clearer if you get out of the, oh my gosh, why does life treat me like this? Why is this happening? I
Hmm.
mean, right now I have this happening in tow for me, like, that are just happening. The transitions happening for me right now in this moment as Rebecca D. Haight speaks, right? And I can get
Right.
caught up in the flow of, oh my God, why has this happened? I mean, I just a tidbit, my teenage 15-year-old, just say that 15-year-old boy, teenager, you get it, right? Things
Yep.
just kind of jive sometimes. Some things just don't jive. We don't get along. Things are fighting, whatever. On top of that, I look at PayPal. PayPal, somebody hacked it, and there's some money on there that wasn't supposed to be, like things like that. And
Right.
I could allow
Ex-
myself, yeah, I could allow myself to put my hands up in the air and think, oh my God. But instead, I practice the things that I'm learning too. I've been working with my own stress manager, and she's teaching me some heart math
Right.
things along with my own intuition. And I just remembered to go, breathe, come from
Breathe.
the heart, and things will happen. All of life comes to me with ease, joy, and glory.
Right.
And most of that was happening through PayPal has been settled. There's just a couple little things, but I have all trust that it's going to finish just clearing up, and that my son and I, at the same time, I can see him changing, see him as I'm working on me, as I'm
Right.
learning to take deep breaths, as I'm learning not to respond as, quickly as I used to with a quick yell, or, something.
Right.
He's getting to do that. I mean, last night it was amazing. There was something going on. I was having a discussion with somebody, and it was getting a little bit heated, and he
Heated.
came out and just He said to me, "Mom, I just don't just it, why don't we?" He just kind of diffused it with some words, and I'm like, "Oh my
Sure.
gosh, he's listening, right? He's
Right.
learning." I'm not teaching him the things because, of course, mom's silly. So the things I bring up, like meditation, yoga, all that,
Hmm.
it seems to is still, but in its own way, it is coming back, and he's seeing it, and he's learning to say, "Is this really working for you, mom?" It's pretty much what he said last night, and it was so
Good.
good. Like, it was so good, and I was like, "All right, great." My 15-year-old is so. I say
Right.
all that because that it's just a state of being. It's learning to listen to your intuition, how to tune
Right.
in, how to be. And a lot of times it's hard. We think that we're right, right?
And we
We have
want
to
to be
step
right. We want to be right.
right.
But once in a while, it's like, okay, that's one of the things that I work with. Let's take a step back, stop, breathe,
Right.
listen, listen.
Yeah.
So often we don't, and all of a sudden we've got this thing that started out as a little molehill has now become this mountain of anger and resentment and stress and crisis.
Yeah.
And to just take that moment to step back. I know, talking about PayPal, a month ago, my one of my business partners, I sent her money through PayPal. And so I said, gee, you know what? I didn't get a receipt back that I sent you money through PayPal. She said, well, you didn't send me money through PayPal. I said, yeah, I
No.
did. Yeah, I did. And she said, yeah, no, you didn't. And I'm like, okay, back to PayPal. And sure enough, I had sent it to the wrong email address.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Yeah. Luckily, went through it. They sent me, and the person sent it back to me and said, "Oh yeah, here it is." And
Oh,
I was
nice.
like, "Phew," because it was like, "What happened?" And
Yeah.
and in that moment, I that you're because it was like 300 and some odd dollars that I sent her, and it was like, "Where did this money go?" What do you mean you didn't get it? It went somewhere. It went to someone. And luckily it was God's grace that, hey, it came back to me. And so then
Yeah.
we made sure it went to the right account. But life happens. Those things do happen. And so, I can't remember who it is. One of the famous people says, life is 90% of what, 10% of what happens to you, but 90% of how you handle it. And I
Right.
think that is just the hugest thing. It's how, and that comes from our inner strength. And don't you think that that takes practice?
Oh my gosh. Constant practice. Constant. And then there's times that, I've been fiery my whole life. But that's the best way to put it. Like, I just am like triggered. Things will trigger me, and I'm like, boom, I'm off. And it takes a lot of practice. And I'm finally, seeing responses, but it's because I finally took full responsibility. You
Right,
as I was younger and I look back, I wasn't introduced to these things, right? It was in my 20s I started
right,
to search my spiritual path. And by 27, I knew I could do readings and channel information, but it still didn't really delve into this really deep, what I call deeper work, what I call
right,
really understanding me. I started to understand spirituality in a different way, but I didn't
right,
understand how much it meant me taking responsibility.
right,
And so that's taken a few years and a few introductions to different types of modalities that, are wonderful, and to keep utilizing it and see what works and combine them together and
right.
see, what is all going to keep you on that path.
Yeah. And Rebecca, that is so true. I really love that you are also believing that there's not just one path. There are so many
Mhm.
modalities out there of meditation or journaling, EFT, all sorts of things out there for
Yeah.
people to learn, number one, about themselves. Who
Mhm.
are you within what you do? And are you doing the right thing? for your job and for your career. So often, like the other day, one of the ladies and I, we were talking. She works with like high six-figure earners. And so we were just talking about that of knowing yourself. And she said, oh, so often you get the corporate people that have built this huge corporate career and realize they hate it.
They just been
Realize
fun.
they
Yeah.
and they have spent 40 years of their life and they hate it.
And I bet you're gonna find a lot of them have had heart attacks, have
Yes.
had type of dis-ease come into their life. They
Yeah.
maybe drink, maybe addiction evolved
Yeah.
there because they're so trying to fill up what they're what's not full in their cup. They're
Right.
trying to fill it up in some way or another.
Right.
And they do it
Rather than going
in
within. Yeah.
react.
Yeah.
You're
And
playing
unfortunately, some of them are committing suicide because they just can't handle, or else they retire, or especially men, they retire and they within a year they're dead because
mm,
they've had a heart attack or they've had a stroke or something because they all their worth and value was in what they did. So it was just a
right.
really interesting conversation. But you know what? It's never too late to start. So give us one tip
Absolutely.
of how to, if somebody is just hearing this for the first time and you're thinking, huh? What do you mean getting mindful? And what, I've never even heard because I remember being that way. What do you mean mindfulness? I had no idea what it
Right.
was. But after my husband passed away, I needed to find out who I was. And
Yes.
well,
Yes.
how do you find out who you are? Well, you have to go within. Well, how do you do
Right.
that? Well, then you get mindfulness. And it was like, but
Yeah.
it was a process of just that one little spark of, oh, okay, who am I? Who am I? Now that I've lost my husband.
That's
So
great because go ahead.
nope. What would you say to for somebody else to start on their journey? That's how
Right.
I
So
started mine.
yes, so many people, and I was realizing that the majority of the people I've worked with through the years have been women, probably 30 and above. A lot of times 40 and above, but sometimes as low as 30. And then they're going some type of transition, just like you. Husband
Mhm.
passed away, or maybe divorced, and there's just such a transition, and you realized how much your life was wrapped around someone else, and you totally
Right,
entirely forgot. Like you almost can't think without the other person. Like
right,
I didn't I still like that, or it's just crazy.
right,
So my tidbit is to really, first of all, you have to recognize, feel, and it's hard because sometimes you have to feel through the pain, right? And
right,
some of the best ways, and it seems silly, is to reach in, and I have found the best practice, and I'm sure you've heard other people talk about it, is when before you go to bed and when you wake up, you're in recognizing three gratitudes.
right,
So when you wake up, which I'm sure you had happen to you, you probably woke up in a start many mornings and upset and in like, oh my gosh, how come this happened and why? And how
right,
come us now? So out of that, you have to try to find some gratitude, even if the smallest thing. Oh, I have gratitude for my pillow. I'm
right,
grateful for these tears because at least I'm still feeling and I'm alive. I'm
right,
grateful for, the sky. It could be as simple as that. If you can't
right.
find real gratitude, and in the end of the day, finding
Yeah,
gratitude again because you make it through the end of the day. So I
right,
think that some of the biggest bits, bits and pieces is that finding that because it kind of brings you into like realization and to
right,
realize that people can be just very simply taking a few breaths when you're feeling out of sorts, upset,
hmm,
angry, sad, and see if you can just shift. And sometimes just as simple as breathing in through your nose and counting at the same time. Like I breathe in and I maybe count to 5, maybe hold my breath for 5, and I let it go as slow as I can for maybe 7 or 5 to 5,
right,
maybe keep it the same
yeah,
count. And I know it sounds simple and silly, but when you're counting and you're breathing and that's all you're paying attention to, it kind of resets the brain.
Right. Because your brain can't do two things at once.
Right. So it kind of gets you, and then it just kind of settles all that nervousness going on. And you might
Yeah.
have to do that several times a day,
Yeah.
several minutes a day. You know, and when life's really scary, you have to do it all the time. So
Yeah.
that's some simple, mindful thoughts that I can
Yeah.
bring to the table today.
Yeah. Thank you. And those are so important. The thing is that I really try to get across to people is that they are so simple. They don't cost you anything monetarily, but they can provide everything for you spiritually and emotionally and physically. Absolutely. And one of the things that you talk about gratitude, one of the things that I'm grateful for pretty much every day is indoor plumbing. This past weekend, I had the opportunity to go. We went RV camping, but it was rustic, and it was like, oh, I'm so grateful that that I have indoor plumbing. At home, I would not want to have gone back to the 1800s, and not had plumbing, because I can always remember my grandmother. She was born in 1887. And one day I happened, whoops, we've lost. Okay, hi everybody. Well, we've lost our guest. Anyways, so, okay, we'll come back. Don't you just love modern technology? We love it. We were talking to Rebecca. Anyways, and she just had some great tips and strategies on how to be mindful. And so I just encourage you to, we're going to be, here you're back. Not quite sure what happened. We love modern technology. But my grandmother, one time I was complaining about having to iron a blouse, and she said, "You don't know what ironing is." And she proceeded to give me a 20-minute lecture on ironing, of having to stoke the stove and make the starch and make the soap and all the stuff. So, anyways, but Rebecca, this has been really wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, how can people get in touch with you?
Well, the easiest way is on my Facebook page, Rebecca Dehate. It's Dehate. And I'm on LinkedIn as the same. And just that way, LinkedIn and Instagram. The three main ones are Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I can drop those below. And I can also drop a link to Primerica also. And
Perfect.
today I would like to offer, if anyone wants to talk to me a little more about Primerica, I would love to offer a free financial needs analysis. And that's just a great tool. Yeah. So
Just
I'm there for you.
and don't you think that that's absolutely so important to just know where you're at? In fact, I'm in the process. It's so funny that I'm talking to you because I'm in the process of doing that right now with my gal. And it's like, okay, let's just see where you are right now. And then we're going to go forward. And it's like, all right. Yeah. Good concept. We don't always do it, though. We don't always do it. So that's.
Get to it, right? We'll get to it.
I'll get to it later. Yeah. Oh, I'll do that tomorrow. Oh, brother. Well, Barbara, tomorrow is here. So now it's like we're working at it. All right. Oh, well, hi, Tamara. So is here listening. So this was great. Thank you so much for all your tips and your strategies. And so we're going to be putting this up. This is going to go out on Facebook and on YouTube. And so this is all just very fun. So you've been listening to the Time to Shine Happiness Show. And this is from the Diamond Factor Experience. And I just have to say thank you to my co-host that wasn't here today, to Barbara Beckley. She's the other part of the BBs. And for putting on this show, for having us with this platform. And just so many good things have come out of this show, of engagement and of people learning, and like today, learning about just insurance and being prepared. It is so important because it's not just about living your life. Yes, we have to live our lives, but you know what? We have to do that with ease and gratitude and abundance. And that's what we're meant to have. So, and just all these little things can all put together to have an absolutely life of impact and influence and also income. So Barbara is going to be